Robert Smalls was born on April 5, 1839, in Beaufort, South Carolina. He was born enslaved, which meant he had no freedom or rights. His mother, Lydia Polite, was also enslaved, and his father may have been his enslaver or another white man in the area. Because his mother was enslaved, Robert was enslaved too. This was the harsh reality of slavery in America, where children automatically inherited the condition of their mothers. From the very beginning, Robert's life was limited by laws and customs that tried to keep him under control. As a boy, Robert lived in the home of his enslaver, Henry McKee. He did not suffer as much as some enslaved children at first, but his mother wanted him to understand the full truth about slavery. She sometimes arranged for Robert to work in the fields with other enslaved people so that he would see the backbreaking labor, the punishments, and the lack of freedom that most enslaved people had to endure. These early lessons stayed with Robert. He grew up knowing that slavery was cruel and unjust, and he carried a strong desire to one day be free. When Robert became a teenager, he was sent to Charleston, South Carolina, to work. Charleston was a busy port city with ships, sailors, and trade. Robert took on many jobs there, including working as a waiter, a lamplighter, and a dock worker. Over time, he began working in the harbor, where he learned how to handle ships. He quickly gained skills in navigation and sailing and became trusted by ship crews. Even though Robert worked hard and earned money, almost all of it went to his enslaver. Like many enslaved people in the city, he was allowed to keep only a small amount for himself. He dreamed of saving enough money to buy his freedom, but the cost was extremely high, and he realized it would be nearly impossible. During this time in Charleston, Robert fell in love with a woman named Hannah Jones. She was also enslaved, but she worked as a hotel maid. The two married in 1856, and they later had children together. Robert loved his family deeply and wanted nothing more than to give them freedom. He even tried to negotiate with his enslaver to buy his family's freedom, but the cost was set at $800, a huge amount of money that Robert could never realistically save. This frustration only increased his determination to escape. He knew that if he could not buy his freedom, he would have to take it by some other means. When the Civil War began in 1861, the country was split between the Union in the North and the Confederacy in the South. The Confederacy fought to protect slavery, while the Union first fought to preserve the country, and later also to end slavery. Because Robert lived in South Carolina, he was forced to work for the Confederacy. He was assigned to a steamship called the Planter, which was used as a military transport vessel. The Planter carried supplies, weapons, and troops for the Confederate forces. Robert became very skilled at working on the ship. He learned how to steer it, how to work the engines, and how to navigate Charleston Harbor. He also paid close attention to the secret signals used by Confederate officers to pass through forts and checkpoints safely. Working on the Planter gave Robert an idea that would change his life. He realized that with his knowledge of the ship and the harbor, he might be able to use the vessel to escape. The ship was powerful and fast, and if he could get control of it, he could carry not only himself, but also his family and others to freedom. The risk was enormous. If he were caught, he would almost certainly be executed. But Robert was determined to take that chance because the promise of freedom was worth the danger. On the night of May 12, 1862, Robert put his plan into action. The white officers who commanded the Planter left the ship for the night, trusting Robert and the other enslaved crew members to stay put. Instead, Robert took charge. Before dawn on May 13th, he put on the captain's coat and straw hat to make himself look like the captain from a distance. He and the other enslaved crew sailed the Planter out of the harbor. On the way, Robert stopped to pick up his wife, children, and the families of the other crew members. As they sailed out of Charleston Harbor, Robert faced the most dangerous part of the escape. They had to pass several Confederate forts, each of which required a special whistle signal for a ship to be allowed through. Robert knew all the signals from his time on the ship, and he used them perfectly. From the shore, Confederate guards saw what looked like their captain standing on deck and heard the correct signals, so they let the planter pass. At last, after passing the final Confederate fort, Robert lowered the Confederate flag and raised a white sheet to signal surrender to the Union Navy. At first, Union soldiers thought the ship might be a trick, but soon they realized the truth. Robert Smalls and his crew had just stolen a Confederate warship and brought it to freedom. This was an extraordinary achievement. Robert had not only secured freedom for himself, his family, and his friends, but had also delivered a valuable ship, guns, and military information to the Union. News of Robert Smalls's daring escape spread quickly across the country. Northern newspapers praised his bravery, and he became a symbol of courage and hope. The President, Abraham Lincoln himself, learned of the story, and it impressed many in the Union government. Smalls proved that enslaved people were not helpless, but were capable, intelligent, and brave. His actions encouraged the Union to allow more African Americans to join the fight against the Confederacy. After his escape, Robert continued to serve the Union during the war. He helped recruit thousands of black soldiers, convincing many formerly enslaved men to join the Union Army. He also served in the military himself, piloting ships and taking part in battles. His knowledge of the waters around South Carolina made him extremely valuable. His service showed once again that African Americans were not only eager to fight for freedom, but were also capable leaders and soldiers. When the Civil War ended in 1865, slavery was finally abolished in the United States. Robert Smalls was free at last, but he did not stop there. He returned to Beaufort, South Carolina, where he bought the very house in which he and his mother had once been enslaved. This was an amazing and symbolic act. The boy who had been born into slavery now owned the home of his former master. Robert soon became active in politics. During a period known as Reconstruction, African Americans in the South gained new rights, including the right to vote and hold office. Smalls took part in rebuilding his community and worked to improve the lives of freed people. He was elected to the South Carolina State Legislature and later to the United States House of Representatives. In Congress, he served 5 terms, working for equal rights, better education, and justice for African Americans. Life was not easy for him during these years. After Reconstruction ended, white supremacists regained power in the South and worked to take away the rights that African Americans had gained. Robert Smalls faced threats, racism, and political opposition. Still, he refused to give up. He continued to fight for progress, even when the challenges were great. Robert lived a long life, dying in 1915 at the age of 75. Over the course of his lifetime, he had seen slavery abolished, had played a role in the Union's victory in the Civil War, and had served in the halls of Congress. His life showed the enormous changes that America went through in the 19th century, as well as the courage of individuals who helped make those changes possible. Robert Smalls' story matters because it shows the strength of the human spirit in the face of injustice. He began life with nothing, enslaved and powerless. Yet through bravery and intelligence, he seized freedom and shaped history. His daring escape proved that enslaved people were not passive victims, but strong and resourceful people who were ready to claim their rights. His service during the war helped convince others of the importance of ending slavery. His work in politics after the war showed that African Americans could be leaders not only in battle, but also in government and society. The story of Robert Smalls is more than just a tale of personal bravery. It is also a reminder of how much one person's courage can influence a nation. By taking control of a single ship, he changed his own life, inspired others, and struck a blow against slavery. His actions helped move America closer to freedom and equality. Even after his death, his legacy continued to inspire future generations who fought for civil rights and justice. Robert Smalls's life teaches us that true courage means acting even when the risks are high. It teaches us that determination can open doors that seem closed. And it teaches us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Smalls's journey from an enslaved boy to a respected leader in Congress is one of the most remarkable stories in American history. It is a story worth remembering and telling because it shows us the power of hope, bravery, and the fight for freedom.